Alright, so now let's do the application problems on the back side of your notes. Let's start with number 9. Number 9 says to find the area of a square with a side length of 3r squared t units. And it gives you the formula for the area of a square. So our area of a square is a equals s squared, where s is our side length. Okay, and it tells us that our side length, the s, is equal to 3r squared t. Okay, well, if we're wanting to find the area, which is a, then we need to plug in what s is equal to for the s. So a equals s, which is equal to 3r squared t squared. Okay, but now we have to apply our exponent properties, and we have powers being raised to another power. Now remember, if you don't see an exponent of a term, then it's an understood 1. So the 3 is being raised to the first power, and so is the t here. So that way we know what to so-called multiply by whenever we are distributing this exponent. Because when we have an exponent raised to another exponent, and we've got several things that are being raised to it, then we need to basically distribute it. So this 2 gets multiplied by this exponent, and this exponent. Alright, so a equals 3 raised to the 1 times 2. And that came from taking the exponent of the 3 that's already there, multiplying it by the exponent on the outside. Okay, then r is going to be to the 2, because that's what was already there, times the 2 that it is being raised to. And then t was already raised to the first power, but now it's being raised to the second power, and so we multiply those together. Alright, so now let's go and simplify. So a equals 3 to the 1 times 2, which is 3 to the second power, because 1 times 2 is 2. And then we have r raised to the 2 times 2, which is 4, so r to the 4th power. And then t, which is raised to the 1 times 2, which is 2, so we get t raised to the 2nd power. So we're almost done, but then we need to still simplify this 3 raised to the 2nd power, or in other words 3 squared, because it can be simplified a little bit further. So a is equal to 3 squared, which is 9. And we can't simplify r to the 4th any, so it's going to stay r to the 4th. And same thing with t squared. We don't know the value of t, so it's going to stay t squared. So this would be your area of the square that has a side length of 3r squared t. So your final answer is 9r to the 4th t squared. Now on to number 10. Number 10 says to find the area of the circle. Leave in terms of pi. And what that means is really just you're not going to multiply anything by 3.14. You're just going to leave the pi symbol. And then it reminds you what the area of a circle formula is. It's a equals pi r squared. Alright, so look at the diagram that they've given you. Okay, they've given you your circle, and then they label the middle, which is your center, and that's why they labeled it with the C, because it's your center. Okay, and then they give you this line right here, and hopefully you remember that that is called our radius, and our radius is r. Okay, so they've labeled it as 5j cubed k to the 5th, and so that is what r equals. R equals 5j cubed k to the 5th. So now that we know what r is equal to, we can now plug that into our formula. Okay, so a equals pi times the r, which is 5j cubed k to the 5th, and then that whole quantity is squared because that's our radius. And that's what we do, that based off whatever our formula tells us to. Okay, so now we need to simplify, and again we have powers being raised to another power. Okay, and remember, if you've got parentheses and you've got a power on the outside, everything inside that parentheses has to be raised to the second power. Also remember that if you don't see an exponent, it is raised to the first power. So that 5 is being raised to the first power. Okay, you can go ahead and bring down the pi, because that is not attached to the square and it's not inside the parentheses, so we will not square that. But we will square everything that's inside the parentheses. So we get 5 to the 1 times 2. Remember, when you have a power to a power, you multiply. Times j to the 3 times 2 times k to the 5th, or to the 5 times 2. And again, that just came from taking our exponent and multiplying it by all the exponents inside the parentheses. So now we need to simplify. Now I'm going to go up here because I'm running out of room. Alright, so we still have a equals pi, and then we have 5 times 1, or 5 to the 1 times 2. So we get 5 to the 2, or 5 squared, because 1 times 2 is 2. Then j to the 6, because 3 times 2 is 6. And then k to the 10th. Probably can't see that very well. K to the 10th, because 5 times 2 is k, or 5 times 2 is 10. I'm going to rewrite that since you can't see it very well. Okay, and so we're almost done, but now we just need to simplify a couple of things. We've got 5 squared, and, well, 5 squared is 25. So a equals pi times 25j to the 6th, k to the 10th. Okay, and actually pi is kind of like a variable here, and we want to write it at the end of our term. So our final answer will be 25j to the 6th, k to the 10th times pi. So that is your final answer. Alright, number 11, I actually want you to attempt on your own at home and then bring it to class. Remember, when I ask you to attempt problems, I will not give you full credit on your notes unless you have at least tried the problems. So make sure you write something down and try to get somewhere with the problem so where you can get 100 on your notes whenever you walk in the door. Okay, so number 11 says, which expression is equivalent to the volume of the cylinder shown, where r is the radius and h is the height? And it gives you the formula for the volume, which is V equals pi r squared h. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give you a hint here. Look at your diagram. Here's your diagram. They have labeled that this is h, and then this right here, that's halfway through the circle of the side, and so that's your radius. So it's telling you, the diagram is telling you that r is equal to h divided by 2. Okay, so you're wanting to find v, so you've got v equals your pi, and notice that are your answer choices over here, they all have pi in them, so you're not going to multiply by 3.14, you're just going to leave it as the pi symbol. And then the r, which we know is h over 2, we're going to replace the r in the formula with h over 2. And then the r is squared, so we square it, times h. So now all you have to do is simplify this right here and see which expression over here is it equivalent to, which one represents it. So finish this problem on your own, and I will check for it when I stamp your notes at the door.